Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. And this one we're going to be taking a look at the new elite version of Fortress of Solitude Power Core. This is a DCUO test, episode 41 House of Legends. Now, I'm just going to be playing the boss fights because, I mean, really, FoS 2 has been around for like a decade, almost. So, I would hope that everyone knows FoS 2 at this point. So, I just want to cover the boss fights. Not that a lot has changed in the boss fights. This is the elite version. This is the new version of FoS 2. But really, not too much has changed, and we'll get into that, and hopefully we see some changes later. But first boss with Prime Assassin, really, it looks like they took and changed him to Brainiac from Flash of the Future. He still has the Brainiac pull that you're going to see a bunch of times in one-shot people. He's still got the furnace attack that, for some reason, A, the pull is hitting it like max range, and B, the furnace is hitting at max range, where before, his jets would be at least, you'd be able to see the animation from it. So it's all that changed. Now, the original FoS 2 didn't have any of those attacks, didn't have the pull, didn't have the furnace. It was basically his charge would kill a player or knock them back and kill them, where this charge now, it's very limited. He charges like 15-20 feet instead of like across the entire map. Before, his teleport used to do a lot of damage, and other than that, it's just the crystal phases. So now the shards of Shard of Restoration, which would normally heal him a lot, only heals like a millimeter. So I mean, that's one thing that's got to change. The second thing is his immunity phase. Normally, it'd be if you got off the Shard of Immunity, it would basically make him immune until the next crystal phase. Now it drops off after like a couple minutes from hitting ones. And then Affliction really does nothing. It may make the boss hit harder, but I mean, it's not noticeable. You just saw him got yanked from map. But yeah, it doesn't really. The Shard of Affliction doesn't really impact him at all. Not that I saw. It summons another assassin pet, but that one of the major differences that I saw is when you normally ran FoS 2 as a tank, like you were legitimately like scared of assassins, like those NPCs. If you got, because they don't have like a damage over time, it's just like a burst damage. They fire like a projectile almost, and if you got hit by like 5 or 6 of them at once, it was like massive damage. You had to keep them knocked up continually. Now, I mean, they hit like pillows, so it's the scaling on the ads is definitely off. But I mean, realistically, my first choice wouldn't have been to make FoS 2 an elite raid, because FoS 2 wasn't really that hard. FoS 2 is a long raid. FoS 2 definitely is long. But FoS 2 back in the day, if you had a good tank could carry you completely. Like, because there's nothing really damaging the group. It's basically a tank can juggle the ads. Tank, all the bosses can be faced away. I mean, Jorel doesn't really involve a tank. It's just getting the shard in. I mean, this bridge phase can be soloed by a tank. So it really, in the past, if you were a good tank, you could carry your FoS groups and be completely fine. Like no one else. That was the role. If you had a bad tank, then yeah, you would struggle mightily if it was a bad tank. But I mean, even this bridge phase, I mean, they're running it straight up the bridge, which normally you wouldn't have to do. You'd have to pull the assassins off or not be able to get past that. Then people are throwing the stone in like halfway across the map. I know they threw the stone before, but it wasn't as prevalent. And obviously, there's no pulling the sunstone sentries off their bridge or through the middle or anything like that. It's just basically just a damage check, and then I think the resonator is only like 40 seconds, so you saw how fast that resonator went. So I mean, the bridge fight used to be the thing you pugged. Like I remember on the PC server, it was like looking for tank for FoS bridge or FoS 2 bridge. You see tons of those shouts where they would only want you to come tank just for the bridge, and then you could basically leave because that's where groups got stuck. Now, I mean, no one's running it underneath. I mean, they're just basically picking up, throwing it, and then the Sunstone Sentries are doing basically nothing. So that's some things I want to see would change with that fight. I definitely want to see that you can't, at least in Elite, if you throw the rock in Elite, then it should reset. There's no reason why you don't have to pick it up and carry and walk it underneath and jump up the side of the little workaround trick that way, or go up the bridge and have the tank pull the assassins up the bridge so they take longer to walk all the way around back. So I mean, there's plenty of ways they can do it. But this whole throwing the rock 30 feet and picking it up, throwing it again, and scoring it in 2 seconds is really unnecessary. So with the Drell fight, same thing. Nothing really changed with the Drell fight. I think it lasts a bit longer, if memory serves. I didn't remember this many phases. Usually by the time he got his smallest, you're just taking like massive. He's taking like the most damage and is killing it very quickly. But generally there's not too much that they could do. I mean, yeah, they could like add all these new features into a FoS 2, but I really making these older raids elite versioned. I really don't think it's about adding new mechanics and new things to make it hard. I think it's just about upscaling it to like current elite difficulty, so it's more just damage tuning, which FoS 2 is not the best example of that. I mean, none of the FoS raids really were. I mean, even FoS 1 or FoS 3. I mean, you could do FoS 3 at elite, but then it's going to be a super short raid, and I don't think they want to do that because, I mean, it's really just a few boss fights and some ads. But it really would be nice seeing the snipers and the medics and stuff go off in FoS 3 elite to target like perk players and stuff like that. Or people not understanding the mechanics and just one-shot you. Same thing with like getting melee range of the white sentries. So the only thing that's been added to this fight, I believe, is the like I know before it was like the popcorn basically fire out and if it hit you, but now there's like some kind of like sky attack that falls down when he fist slams, and it's hitting you for like 20k ticks. So that I don't recall being in the original FoS 2. I think that was added. And it basically it's just a healer check. It's not like it's like you'll see some death from it, but essentially it's just the healer's not reacting to it. But that was the only thing I really noticed. Because before, like, yeah, if he was close to you and he slamming his fist, but now you can see it right in the combat log there. It's like crystal rain damaged for like what's it, like 40k sometimes. So imagine like a 40k damage tick on you. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, it's certainly manageable, but it's definitely a lot. You just had like that purple healing ray spam, or artifacts and allies and stuff. So in terms of like allies impacting content-wise, really I think it's just because all the passes are broken, we can't really see the true effect. Because I mean, allies do about the same damage as like a trinket pet would, just is a lot shorter. So it's comparable to like a trinket pet, except zoom. I mean, I don't think a lot of people were spamming zoom. I mean, I just did the double zoom spam sometimes with like circuit breaker, but you can triple summon zoom or triple summon any ally. I didn't really see that at all in this raid group. So I mean, technically it could go a lot faster. I mean, you could have a bunch of players like triple spam like Cyborg. Cyborg's the strongest for single target, and then just like nuke a boss or something like that, bring him down to half health with orbitals like right away. But I mean, that's going to get fixed, obviously. That's not intended at all. And the other thing that's not intended, you'll see it more so in the final fight with Avatar meta. But Flashpoint Batman's grenades will stun bosses. It's it's just something that's overlooked. But yeah, I mean, we don't know yet what the second and third raid are going to be for the elite upscaling. But I feel like FoS 2, it's more just kind of trigger some memories. People get to run FoS 2 again. I'm sure there's a lot of players that haven't run FoS 2 or any of the FoS raids because they kind of skipped that tier when they started playing the game. So, I mean, for them it's going to be new. But if you're like an older player coming back to FoS 2, it really not too much has changed. It's going to be harder, but it's just that so much have changed with like artifacts and allies and trinket pets and everything else that it's not going to feel like the same FoS 2. So Avatar meta, same thing right now. As you see him, his body's kind of like morphed into the ground. That's the Flashpoint Batman stun, and basically just helpless there. So the Avatar meta, he still has a slow ball. The other balls are floating around still. Really, his only other attack is like this Meta Blast, where he targets you a few times. It doesn't seem to be following aggro. And the other weird thing is that if you're dead, he'll still do that on your body, and just like target you even though you're already dead. But that could have been around. The other thing too that's broken here is the tentacle phase. You'll see probably just there you go. Each time you kill a tentacle phase, you get loot, and that's why you see me open my inventory and reset because I want the loot. But obviously that'll be fixed as well. That just didn't make any sense. That each time you do a tentacle phase, you get double and triple loot sometimes. Other than that, the Avatar meta is the exact same phase. I mean, he'll go into his phases. You have to turn the tentacles. Right now, it's pretty much only the tank, maybe a controller or two with shields that can turn the tentacles, because they seem to always want to swipe you at the same time. So all three hit you at the same time for like 80k each or 100k each. So it can be a bit overwhelming. I tried that as a DPS, and that was no bueno. So yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed whatsoever to the Save the Universe concept where they're upscaling older raids. I just think that you really need to upscale certain older raids to be able to compete with like artifacts and everything else we have today, because older raids are nowhere near designed for any of this kind of stuff. I mean, you could get away with some of the older raids, but largely they're not suitable for this. I mean, yeah, you could upscale like Darkside War Factory. You could upscale like Throne of the Dead Elite and like maybe Happiness Home, like some of those ones, like the raids that came out during AM days. You could upscale some of those to elite levels currently, and then those would be much better suited. Inner Sanctum won't be close because there's a lot of mechanics in that, but it all depends on how much they buff like the Arc Custodian. So as you see, more loot from me. Hey, you gotta gear up on test server somehow. But yeah, that's about it that I can think of. Normally in the past you'd be grounded, or at least you wouldn't want to summon pets and walk around because those invisible balls would follow the group. They still do spawn. It's labeled as like Meta Blast in the combat log, but really they're kind of stationary, so you have to like physically walk into them and you take a bunch of damage. It's not like they're floating around following you, the group, or summoning on your bodies and stuff like that. So that's the one downside that I've seen. That's why we're pretty much in like full movement mode here, not having any kind of issue with it. But we'll see. I mean, there's still chances for them to make some changes and upscale this, but I really don't feel like any group is going to have any kind of difficulty with FoS 2. It's just going to be a longer raid. That's the thing. It's FoS 2. There's really no kind of shortcuts. So I mean, if you upscale it like this, I mean, it's still going to be like, a half an hour raid, maybe 20 minutes to half an hour, which is like, double, triple how long people are used to with like raids like QE. Because you still have like the split path, you still have like the Bizarro boss and Supergirl boss, and then fighting both of them together. So I mean, there's still lots of components to this. So we'll see how it all turns out. But leave your questions in the comment section and I'll get to them. Thank you guys. Take care.